Eid Mubarak from Estonia. And here we're having conversations around the tech environment, founding a business, growing a business, and the kind of support that you require around the entire ecosystem and even from the government so that your business can grow to become as big as those ones that we've seen here in Estonia. There are very many that have grown to become unicorns, major companies. I've met up with a Kenyan entrepreneur in the tech space, Frank Abna. Frank, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what kind of business are you involved in and where is it?
We are involved in, we are called an Assessor, which is an AI-powered communications platform. Mm-hmm. It's based in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, but we also do have a presence in Estonia.
Okay. So walk me through that journey of at what point did the idea come from your head to starting to implement? Where were you? Were you in Kenya or were you outside of the country?
All right. So for the going back to when you started business, I've been in business for over the past 10 years or so. And in business, we've been doing different types of businesses, basically within the IT space. That is from payment systems, VAS solution, bespoke software, and so on and so forth. However, from around 2024, that's about 2-3 years ago, we were having some discussions with actually somebody from Finland, who's actually my client, who ended up being my client. And we were discussing about different business environment, basically all over the world. And he planted the idea in our mind about how easy it is to set up business in this side of town. Mm. And we were trying to look at the pros and cons, or maybe reasons as to why maybe somebody will decide to explore a business maybe somewhere else besides Kenya. And I know for a fact, most Kenyans, they look at the fact that if I'm to consider setting up a business somewhere else, what will be the logistics? Most of the time, they think about the logistical nightmare behind setting up a business. Maybe one, needing to be there physically, maybe two, and I think we look at it from the point of view that we are used to as Kenyans, being we need to submit documents physically, we need to go there physically, and so on. However, when this friend shared about Estonia, and they mentioned that at that time it was 98% of the government services were available online, and we got into it. And that's when we searched up Estonia, e-residency in Estonia, and we were able to start the process. And good to say, we were able to complete the registration process within 30 minutes of setup.
I want to pause you before we come actually into the e-residency. Walk me back in Kenya. You're running your business in Kenya for over 10 years. How easy, how difficult is it for a startup to come up in Kenya? Like, what are the kind of hurdles that you have to jump through and through?
Okay, I think I will outright say one of the key challenges that our businesses, because for myself, I just got into business when I was right out of a campus. And firstly, in terms of cost, the cost that you incur when you're setting up a business are quite high. And that is firstly in terms of registration cost. And these are now from capital expenditure and operational expenditure cost. So from capital expenditure now, one, the cost that you need maybe not to set up like a limited company. And two, when you're looking into things like operations now for you to be compliant, we have the normal taxes, whereby we have the corporate tax, we have the income tax, we have the VAT, we have the payee, we have the NHIF, NSF, and so on and so forth. And over time, from the past 10 years to date, I think they've kept on increasing. And this has made it a bit difficult for a small business, or maybe somebody just right out of school, to be able to come and set up their business and run them in an effective manner.
So you're in school, you've come up with an idea and you want to start a business, right? And you had to go and register it. So registration, did you register it in the era of brs.go.ke, or did you register it in the era of actually working with hard copy papers?
Yes, I did so in the era of hard copy papers. Yeah, so you can imagine, and actually that's why I say, despite all the challenges that we have as a country, we should acknowledge and appreciate the fact that we've come from far up to where we are as e-citizen. It used to be crazier because we used to have, you compile get your MOU, Memorandum of Articles document, and all those other documents. You go to registry, you find maybe you need to have a contact there to help you accelerate the process and all that. So you find that before you're able to register a company, maybe it used to take up sometimes even like a month, or even more than that if you don't have the documents at hand. So it used to be very, very manual. And yes, right now we do appreciate the fact that we've been able to streamline some of those processes up to where we are right now.
Okay. The other thing that you needed after you came out of the registration office is you also needed to register it for tax. So you go to Times Tower again to register it for tax, right? Okay. After the registration for tax, did you think that this is it now? I can start my business?
Yeah, true, actually. And that's also it's good you raised that, because that is one of the challenges that we have as a country. Because at that point, you think that, okay, the fact that I've done registered my tax, I think that's it. And at that time, because you're from a tech background, you're not that familiar with things to do with accounting, you're not familiar with things to do with HR and so on. It means that you have these gaps in existence. And these gaps are going to come back and bite you in future, because we need to understand how the HR policy, how HR policy works as a country. You need to be familiar with accounting practices as a country, and now generally, basically, all these nitty-gritties that are needed for you to be able to run a business, you need to be familiar with how they run. So on my end, as far you think that the fact that yes, you have a company registered and one, you don't even know that you're supposed to be filing returns on a monthly basis if it's a VAT company. You're not aware. And but we were able to catch up with these as time went. Yeah.
Is there an ecosystem in Kenya or a place where you can just plug in for this kind of information? Like, so you're a startup, you're just a young man who's come out of university and you have an idea and you're starting. Is there anywhere, a portal that today you can go to that gives you information or a breakdown of these are the things that you require today, and these are the places that you can get this kind of support?
Okay, at the moment, not the way you've put it, but we have for you to be able to set up like a business, maybe from tech, we have what they call like a tech incubators. And the tech incubators, they simply help you maybe get your idea off the ground. Maybe, for instance, if you're looking to build like a financial application, maybe in the fintech space, we're able to help you, with things like product market fit, help you to go to market and so on, those kind of things. But in terms of these other nitty-gritties from operational standpoint, whereby they're actually important for you to run a business, we don't necessarily have a one-stop shop that will help you with that. And those are some of the crippling things that hinder us or hinder small businesses in terms of going to market. I've seen few private entities that have tried to consolidate such information, but it is not to a satisfactory level yet. And I think eCitizen, to a certain extent right now, is also trying to do that, but I won't necessarily say it has captured things to a satisfactory level. Basically, for somebody who's right out of school or even still in school who's looking to set up a business.
How about funding? Is there any kind of ecosystem that helps you to know that these are my options for securing funding for my business? As a founder, I want to get, I know those terminologies that you guys use, Series A, Series B, whatever, right? Is there any kind of information place that can give you that information? You are at this stage, so you need a Series A funding. You get to this level, so you need a Series B funding, and these are the sources of the funds.
Also, not precisely. What you have is also, I think we've seen initiatives from the private sector. I think the likes of Safaricom and KCB, I think they've done over the last few years, they've been doing like some initiatives. I think we have, I think KCB is called, I think the Simba something, and the Spark Accelerator programs. I think they've been trying to do those initiatives so as to help our businesses to, in terms of getting access to funding and so on and so forth. So it's also, it's not necessarily in, I'll put it like in a public domain to a certain extent, because they're in the private sector and they have their own strict requirements and so on before you're able to even qualify for one. So it's not that of a straightforward process as well still. So meaning for one looking for funding, you may still have to bootstrap for quite a while before you're able to get access to that.
One of the other things that I'm thinking of is, here is Frank, who has started a business and they have brilliant ideas about how this thing can go to market. Right? But you are a tech, you're a developer. You need to have some certain skills in going to the market and approaching the market. Did you have that at the beginning? Or did you just have to trisect your way into the market?
Yeah, they call it baptism by fire. Because at that time, actually, you're wearing multiple hats. You're running HR, you're running administration, you're running finance, you're doing business development and all that. And some of these are not necessarily areas that in your background, but when you keep on doing them, you keep on familiarizing yourself with some of the best practices that are in HR, in accounting, in finance, sales, and so on. Because at that time, what you're really interested in is closing sales. And it means when you're closing sales, it means that you're likely to drop some balls in some other crucial components of running a business. So at that time, you most of the time, the training that you have to do is basically on the ground. And if you're lucky, you may be able to get, they call it, you're able to get, I can't remember the term, of people who are able to mentor you. Actually, they're called mentors. So mentors are able to help you with that, basically able to hold your hand. But if you're not lucky, yes, baptism by fire it is.
Swim with the sharks.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, you survive. If you're not lucky, you're eaten. And that's it. Yes. Now, let's go back into when you registered a company. And now I want you to give me these comparisons with this friend who told you about registering a company. Friend from Finland, but told you about registering a company in this region. And you came to Estonia to do that, okay? Now, how long did it take you to register your company in Kenya from the point of thinking of the company and getting your first application in to the point of now being fully compliant? You have a registration certificate, you've got your PIN certificate and everything that you need. How long in terms of time?
Wow. I think it's been more than, 10 years or so. So I would.
You're still complying. You're still.
Yeah. So over that duration, I think it took back then. It took more than a month for you to have maybe like your registration done, your NSSF, NHIF, your compliance, and so on, because you don't even know where to start from in the first place. So give or take, I think I would say timeless at that time. It used to be like more than a month. Yeah.
Then let's come to Estonia. So Estonia has this fame of being a very digital place that is very friendly to startups, that's friendly to starting a business. Tell us about your e-residency and why you opted to go for that one.
All right. So for e-residency, what we had in mind was also trying to think about the logistics of going to another market to set up a company. And as I mentioned earlier, the fact that you're looking at it from the lens of what you're used to in Kenya, the fact that you need to have, like, say, physical or manual documents to go to a government entity for you to do the registration and all that. However, when we came to find out about e-residency, we could see that this is just about you go online. As long as you have the required documents, and most of the required documents are just pretty much more or less the same documents that we have in our country that are required. And within a 30-minute session and about 200-300 euros later, you have a company ready. So it was that simple. And I think I've had like other guys discussing like what have been some of the most amazing stories of how you set up your company. Somebody is like, I was able to set up my company while I was on transit from point A to point B and all that. So you can, with that, you can picture the simplicity about that process.
What do they give you? Do they give you a registration certificate, another KRA certificate, an NHIF, NSSF? What do they give you?
Yeah. So for them, they give you a code, and this is pretty much, it's more like I'll call it like an identification code, which is also linked to some of these other essential services that you're going to use. So the same code is going to be linked to if you're doing your accounting, the HR modules and so on and so forth. Basically, it's just the same code that is going to be used across different platforms that you're going to be interacting with. And also, once the registration is done, the next thing is it's called a residency card. E-residency card for it to be sent to you. And that is what takes like about 3 to 8 weeks before a card is able to be sent to you. And what used to happen like back to, and it still happens right now, is the card is normally sent to the different Estonian consulates. And the closest one, they used to have one in South Africa. I'm not sure what happened there, but the rest were in the Abu Dhabi, the Singapore, and so on and so forth. So once you have your company registered, the next step is getting a e-residency card. And with this e-residency card is the card that you use now for you to be able to access now the respective government services. Yeah.
Do you have the e-residency card with you? Okay, it's okay. But just walk us through it. So once you get this card, how do you use the card to transact with government, to transact with opening a bank account? Is it that you have to slot it into your computer, and how do you do that?
Yeah. So the card is pretty much comes with a USB stick. So with the USB stick, you're able to attach it to the card, and now you simply attach it to your computer. So with that, now we go to the respective government portal, which is I think eresident.ee, and with that now you're able to activate and key in because the card comes with your respective PIN and so on. So with that is the secure authentication method they get to use for you to be able to access the respective services.
So your company is now registered in Estonia. What advantages do you get with that?
They come with a myriad of advantages. And one thing I will say for a fact is something like, I'll start with taxation. Because with tax for them, they have like a 0% corporate tax. On our end, we are at 30%. And for tax, they don't get to tax as long as you reinvest funds into the company. Whether you are looking into things like growth, increasing in growth or operations and so on, they don't get to tax that. And I will say that has really helped like stir the economy, or rather grow such. That is the reason as to why we have like about 10 unicorns. That is the reason as to why Estonia is like, I think also top 10 in terms of the GDP per capita and so on, because they don't get to tax. They mostly look into, for us, as Kenya would say that we do immediate taxation for the immediate expenses, but for our ecosystem, for this Estonia ecosystem, they do help you reinvest for growth and expansion. And that key difference has really helped a business, I think, on this side. So for us, when you're looking to come to Europe, it means that we are trying to see what can be favorable. You see, if in addition to taxes, getting access to the European market, better part of the EU market, whereby you can meet investors and so on. So for you to meet and interact with investors, some investors are very comfortable working with an entity that from a well-recognized region like Estonia, compared to, for instance, if I come in as a Kenyan entity vis-a-vis coming in as an Estonian entity, some accelerators, some investors, or some partners are comfortable working with you as an Estonian entity because they know and they believe and they do trust in the system that has been put in place in Estonia. So that means also for us as Kenya, we've made good strides on that. We've made good strides in terms of doing this digitization and so on. But one key element that I think we need to work with is the element of trust, so that you can have not only investors, but also us as residents be able to trust our systems and be very confident in our systems. And with that, I mean something like in terms of data protection, who has access to your data, how often is your data access? Because at times you find that we've had cases whereby people have access to information about yourself and you don't know how they got it. So, and I will say, like in Estonia, they have what they call the X-Road. The X-Road is a platform that has unified the private and the public services all in a single platform, whereby you have things like health, your bank, police services, immigration services, all accessed under a single platform. And this doesn't necessarily mean that it is in a centralized location, because it is decentralized, but the respective entities that want to access any of this information, they simply just query them. And with that, you're able to log and see, Eric was trying to access my police clearance. And Eric can tell us, why do you need my police clearance information? So all that as the fact that it has been consolidated into a single platform, it makes it easier even for the residents. And actually that is one of the reasons as to why they say Estonia is one of the highly digitized economies, because they have what they call like the one of principle they mentioned. So with this one of principle, it means that you only get to submit information that doesn't change about you. You only get to submit it once. That is, your ID doesn't change. Your carry pin doesn't change. And you have maybe like your PIN number. You have some documents about yourself that don't really change. So it doesn't really make sense. Every time you need to place an application or you need to do, 1, 2, 3, you need to keep on providing those manual documentation. So those are the areas that I believe that we need to look at, because you already have the infrastructure ready. I think partially ready because we've been, for Kenya, we've been, I think we are commerce first. Like other countries, for instance, Estonia, I think they started digitizing the government services faster. But for somewhere like Estonia, Estonia went to digitize the government services first. But for us as Kenya, we went to finance. We took the first approach towards financial inclusion and so on. That's why we have things like, the mobile money and so on and so forth. And if you're riding on that backbone, it means that it's also very easy for us to be able to ride on that platform, to be able to, digitize things and centralize them, or be able to have them within a single access location and all that.
Frank, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. And I mean, those are lessons that we have to take as a country, and we have to continue having these conversations so that as we say we are fixing our nation, these are the areas that we need to fix. We've got to identify the areas that we fix as a country, and when it comes to tech and entrepreneurship in the country, these are the areas that we need to fix. How do we create a system that is trustworthy to everybody, the users, and even people who are not direct users? How do they know that the system is trustworthy? How do we get the eCitizen platform, which is working very well, to a level where everybody just feels comfortable using it? How do we get then the eCitizen to read all day, to link up with all the others with that security of your data and making sure that it works?
Sure. I think there's another key thing that I would want to highlight with eCitizen, with e-residency. They have, once you're registered and you are onboarded on the platform, they have what they call a marketplace. And with this marketplace, you have access to accredited institutions across different industries, whether it is, the HR, finance, tech, and so on and so forth. That means for anybody new, for even myself, I can simply go to that marketplace. If I need anything to do with, say, accounting or marketing or whatever it is, I should be able to get like a vendor from that platform. For instance, like ourselves, the fact that we deal with AI-powered communication platforms, and we'd want people to be able to get that information. So once we're able to get ourselves into that marketplace, it means that any other partner coming to, whether it is Estonia, they should be able to get access and see, okay, I think this person is pretty much in the industry that I'm interested in, and they should be able just to get to be able to reach out to you like that. So imagine in Kenya, if we have something of that sort in eCitizen, whereby now you have our own marketplace, because we are very talented, we are very skilled workers in the country. So if we have, of course, as long as a company has been accredited by, maybe you have the relevant certification, if it's things like a CAK, if it's ICT accreditation and all that, you have that, and you've been put in a certain marketplace. That means anybody from the private or the public sector, if they want to partner with you, they can simply be able to get access to you from that single platform. So those are some of the things that I think if we take that approach, it will really help our business and our young people in terms of not only creation of employment, but what is equally of most importance is in terms of we're trying to help in terms of revenue generation and all that. And at the end of the day, help us fixing the nation.
That's how we fix the nation. Frank Abna, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. All the best. This is a future tech billionaire. We are seeing him at this particular stage. Tech entrepreneur Frank Abna, who has a business in Kenya, has now registered an e-residency for his business here in Estonia. He's able then to access easier, a bigger market in Europe. And because there's some trustworthy system, he's been sharing with us that experience. Fixing the nation, one conversation at a time. Keep it here for more coming up shortly.